La 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 la.
Inner Wealth Podcast.
La 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 la.
Inner Wealth Podcast.
La 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 la.
Inner Wealth Podcast.
Get out the matrix and live.
You know what day it is? Inner Wealth Podcast. Meditate and give. So manifest the greater this. And things all good cause I say it is. Invest in your inner wealth. Real generational wealth is mental health. It's an inside game, no toxicity. Let's talk and more listening. Ladies and gentlemen, and now introducing David McCullar, founder of Inception, the first mental health gym.
La 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 la.
Inner Wealth Podcast.
La 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 la.
Inner Wealth Podcast.
La 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 la.
Inner Wealth Podcast.
Get out the matrix and live.
All right, everyone. Welcome back to the Inner Wealth Podcast. Got a very special guest in the building. This is, honestly, before I even introduce this special guest, I had to really think about this. My business it'll be 15 years in April. And when I first was about to launch my business, I talked to my friend and I told her, I said, listen, I'm about to go out to Arizona and I'm about to take place in this company that has this piece of equipment that helps you to deal with stressors and traumas. And she was like, yo, that sounds dope. Like, make sure you hit me up soon as you get back. And I did. And today we're going to talk about that whole journey up until this date. It's my homie, Angelica Chrysler. What up, though?
Hey. It's so funny. You actually called me while you were there.
I did.
You did.
Yeah.
And you were telling me, I think you trained for 3 days straight.
I trained for 4 days.
4 days straight. And then you called me and told me about your experience. And I was like, this is amazing. I got to hear more.
As soon as you said that, it made me think about what I was doing at that time. I remember being in the bedroom and I had just finished probably my 4th day. And because, before I was like, I don't want to say too much until I experience it,
Yeah.
And at that time, I didn't even know. Of course, I don't know what I know now.
Yeah.
I just have this idea about how everything is going to unfold. But that technology is our first technology that we started with, which is called brain training. And so I brought that technology back to Michigan, me and my dad, and we opened up our business, which was called Neuro Fitness Center. And literally, Angelica was like one of our first clients.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I think you, outside of maybe one other person, you were
Right.
like one of our first clients. And I was like, you're the first ambassador. Do you know that?
That's kind of crazy to think about, but oh my goodness, I am.
Yeah. So can you even remember what that felt like at that time and where you were?
Yeah, I feel light years ahead. I actually could never imagine myself in the place that I am now then, because that's how low I was in life, or at least with myself.
Mm-hmm.
And I think you and I, we connected in that way because we were both trying to figure something out. Like, there's got to be more. There has to be a way to heal what we're going through. And even though we had such different experiences, the trauma that was caused to ourselves and our mental and our emotional and our spiritual and our bodies too was the same.
Yeah.
And that's where we connected. And when I first met you, it was so refreshing, but also sad to know, like, there's so many more people that deal with the same things that I was. And I think that's what happens. You start to think like, I'm the only one. I'm alone in the world in all these traumas and all this grief, and you start to isolate yourself. So it was refreshing to find out that there was somebody on the same road and at least the same alignment of like wanting to find healing.
Yeah.
And that connected us immediately.
Yeah, and it connected us in a way that we were doing a lot of the book work.
Yes. Oh my gosh. Did you read this? Did you read that?
I just saw your post when you posted my book collection on IG at the house. And so, but that's what we were connecting on was this book knowledge at that time. I mean, you're talking about the Eckhart Tolle's The Power of Now and stuff like that. And, we were in that realm, and I was dealing with anxiety and panic attacks, and I didn't fully share that with you at that time? Like, I was dealing
No,
with it,
you
but
didn't.
not to the level that I was really going through.
Right.
You know,
I didn't know how bad it was for you.
because to that point, it's just like you still. As I think about mental health and how people think about mental health, about a weakness,
Yeah.
you know, and at that point in time, I don't think I felt a weakness from the thought process, but I definitely was weak in my body.
Yeah.
No.
You're in a vulnerable state,
Yeah.
and learning how to like express that
Right.
and me, I was kind of opposite of that. I was like all emotion.
Yeah.
Always crying, always out. Everything was out. And like I just needed to get it out somehow. And you were that person. And I don't know. It was just kind of like a really interesting experience now that I know what I know too.
Yeah, because that language you started off with talking about traumas, we didn't have that language.
Not at all. No. Well, I remember the first time that we started to like, oh, did you watch The Secret? Because The Secret was huge back then.
Right.
And then, you know, that's when I started to go, okay, what else is there? What else is there? Because like we were like, this is something and this is a way to heal. But we didn't know what it meant or what it looked like, what it sounded like.
What are you healing, first of all?
Right, or what we were healing.
Yeah.
I mean, mine
You
was...
just know that.
Yeah.
You just know you got something going on in your body.
Mm-hmm.
And something going on in your mind. I mean, obviously that's part of the whole thing. But until I went to brain state, I didn't have the understanding about trauma in that way. I still thought about it. Get hit over the head, you got trauma.
Right.
You know?
Yeah.
Gunshot, you got trauma.
Something you can see.
Right.
Something tangible.
Car accident, you have trauma.
Yeah.
So I think that was a big part of why I was like calling you like, yo, this right here is a whole nother level and I can't even fully explain it.
Yeah, there was something, it was very inspiring too, because like in your voice had changed from even the week prior from me talking to you and you saying you're going to go up there, and then day 4 and you're like, I experienced joy. And I was like, wait, what? What's that again? Because at that time, I was going through my own mourning of my parents that had just passed.
Yeah.
And so I was like, joy, what's that? And so hearing it in your voice, I was like, I want that. But it was so amazing because I was like so happy for you. And I could not believe that in 4 days that's what I heard.
Yeah.
You could literally hear it. Like you were talking about things, you were excited, you were like... It was so amazing. And I was like, 4 days?
Yeah.
What is
this? That was an intensive.
Right.
You know, we do our boot camps now at Inception, which is an intensive form of that, but using many different tools versus one tool. And it's very, you know, what's the word? Let's call it interesting. That I'm now doing this thing that I want to go do at this place in Arizona. Now Inception is that for a lot of people.
Mind-blowing.
Right?
It's mind-blowing.
It's like I went there to start a journey to end up doing that myself. And people are flying in from all over the country and the world to come to Inception and to experience what we're doing. And for me, that 4 days was just the awakening.
Yeah.
So let's talk about for you. Because again, remember, I don't know if you remember, at that point in time, I might have been, I don't use the word selling it, because I'm not selling anything, right? But at the same time, the way that I'm describing it and our understanding of what we want to call healing, we thought we was going to train our brain and we just going to be good, right?
Oh, right. Oh, my goodness. Like one and done. We're good.
Right.
Oh, wow. I remember, so I don't know if you still do this, but I remember the first step was you gave me this form to fill out and it said like asking personal questions, like where are you at right now? Where's your mental health? How do you feel? What are your goals? What are your intentions? And even at that point, I was like, my goal and intentions of healing, where do you see yourself? What are you working towards? And I'm like, nothing, because nobody asks those questions. And I was like, oh, okay. Now, years later, I'm realizing that's your intentions. You have to put your intentions out there and you manifest, right? So it was such a cool experience just in general, just from the beginning, from the paperwork. And I remember, I think back now to those answers, and I'm like, man, I was in a hole, like a really deep, dark place. I had no self-confidence. I had no hope, no actual aspirations or goals, or figure out what kind of woman I needed to be to get to those goals. Because I knew in that moment I wasn't in any kind of way. When it came to the way I spoke, the way I just researched, literally everything, like everything that helps me as an entrepreneur today or as a business owner today, I didn't have any of that. I couldn't even figure out what that looked like or what it could be. So it was such an awakening. And like you were saying, it was just an awakening.
Yeah.
The beginning.
That's
yes.
Now when I can go back and really observe it,
yeah.
That's what a lot of people come in, and that's what they're getting right now.
Yeah.
That never have done this. It's the awakening and the expansiveness to let some stuff out and go, and to pull you out of that deficit. Because that's what happened with me.
Oh, yeah.
That's what happened with you. It pulled us out of the deficit where we can continue the journey.
Yeah.
But and being pulled out of the deficit too, you got to deal with a lot of emotions.
That's what I was about to say. I was like, I hope people don't think that this is like a pretty process, because it's not.
No.
It made me face some real stuff, even in the first couple of weeks. And I was blowing up. I was shaking. I had tremors. I was excited. I felt anxiety. I felt all these weird things going on with me that I never faced and never had to go, okay, it's time to deal with whatever this is. And I remember, like, we got into an argument.
I was just about to say that.
We got into the biggest argument over something so small, and I lost it. I went off on you in front of everyone in a business building. Like, there was so much coming out of me.
Yeah.
And I remember, like, at the end, we're both crying and we're both like I'm exhausted. And you're like, now let's go train. And I was like, what? And you're like, it's coming out. You know, like, this is a part of the process. And it is. It's scary. It hurts. And, you know, it's a part of the process. Yeah. And I didn't realize it until that time. And I was like, it's all coming out. Finally.
Yeah. And at that time, I had a little bit enough of awareness to know, like, dang, like, you got some stuff coming up.
Yeah.
But and then that triggered more of my stuff coming up at the same time. And here we are, both triggered off each other. But and this is what people do in relationships.
Yeah.
But for us, it was like this awareness to say, okay, because honestly, that could have been the end of our relationship.
I 100% thought it would be.
You know? And it was just like, I had enough space to be like, no, this is what's happening for both of us.
Yeah.
So what do we do from here?
You knew what was happening with me didn't have anything to do with you.
Right.
And I had to sit there and go, everything that I thought I was upset about has nothing to do with him.
And it was about family.
Yeah. It was such a trigger.
Yeah.
It was so weird. But that was, I think, the first time that anyone had sat and held space for me and was like, and just waited, you know, and was like, okay, let's fix this, you know? And I was like, and I knew, I was like, this isn't the end of our friendship. This is actually the beginning.
Yeah.
This is how we start and how we grow and how we move forward. And I don't think we've ever gotten into arguments since then.
I'm pretty sure we have.
We got heated? Did we get heated?
Yeah, couple years ago, something popped up, but we got through that too.
Exactly. Okay, there we go.
But it was, again, it just goes back down to that thing where, and the whole thing about holding space, I don't have any of this terminology at that point in time.
No,
this
none
is just
of us
me
do.
Naturally just doing what I think is the right thing to do.
Yeah.
Not that I'm following some method of,
You're right.
you know, let me hold space for Angelica at this time as she processes her emotions because I know all of her stuff is coming up and she ain't in her right mind.
No,
Like, I'm not sitting there thinking that.
No.
Now, though,
Yeah.
now I have it. But now, too, I make a decision on who I really want to hold space for and who I just need to let go of.
I understand that. Woo.
You know? Like, there's no more holding space after this. It's time to move on.
Yeah.
You know? And that's not a bad thing.
Not at all.
It's just a necessary thing.
Yeah.
So during that time, when you went through, and you can share, you know, whatever you like in terms of like some of the things you experienced that brought you to where you were. But from that point in time, I remember like your whole world just changed in terms of like you just got up and you just started moving.
Yeah.
Like in a way, like I'm about to move.
Yes.
And it was like, not I'm just about to move my body, but I'm about to move out of the state.
Yeah.
And I was like, really? You know?
Yeah.
And you ain't been back since. So tell that.
Yeah. My goodness. Even though I didn't have, I definitely didn't have the tools back then, mentally, emotionally. I was definitely still, you know, in a dark place. But I think just with the places that we were and the road that you and I were on, you can say like we were ready to move forward. Like we were tired of feeling that way. And for me, I don't know where this I don't know, like this motivation came from, but I said, I need to go. I need to leave this space that I am, this environment or whoever. Like
Right.
I was in a relationship that ended and we were still living together. And so it was very, you know, it's weird. Like you can't live with your ex, right?
Well, I don't know if you remember. I was like, you got to get out of this.
Right.
You know?
And
'Cause I felt like you were trapped.
Yeah. Mentally. It was very, it was a place I put myself in. And I realized that I needed to get myself out of that. I didn't have money. I didn't have furniture. I just had clothes and my daughter. And I was like, actually, there's my motivation. It was her.
Yeah. Oh, I remember.
I was like,
And it's so odd to be sitting here looking at her at
almost
16 years
Yeah.
old, and literally, I remember her running around the office saying, "Where's mommy?" And I'm like, she's in there getting her brain trained. She said, "She's getting her brain trained?"
Yes.
I said, "Yeah, she's getting her brain trained." And then I think one time she told you need to get your brain trained.
She did. She knew. She's been a part of everything. She's definitely my motivation, my inspiration. But, you know, I just knew I wanted more for her than I had growing up.
Yeah.
And I knew the only way to do that is to raise her around a good support system. And at the time, her father's family lived in Orlando. And I thought, well, at least I'll move to Florida. I don't know exactly where,
I
but
wasn't
I'll
mad
go.
at you at all, first of all.
Yeah.
Because, you know, I was living in South Florida. You was like, I'm going to Orlando. I'm like, damn. I want to go too. You know?
But yeah, it was like, you know, this thing where I thought, you know, you put somebody else, and at the time, that's what I needed to do is put her first and say, okay, I need to get better for her and for the future because I can't live like this anymore. And that's what I did. And so it was really sad because you had just opened.
Yep.
And I was like, I cannot believe I'm leaving right now. Like, I wish I could stay a little bit longer. But I did intensives.
Yeah.
I did intensives there every day with me, and then I brought my nephew.
Yeah.
And how old was he? 10?
10.
He was 10 years old, so he was one of the first kids.
He was one of the first kids I trained.
At the time, he had like ADD.
Well, that's what they were saying.
Well,
but-
yeah, he's just, you know, that's what we thought.
Yeah.
And we're like,
yeah.
He needs help. We don't know what's wrong with him.
Well, it was environment.
Yeah, it was
You know?
actually.
It was just all environment, and he's just adapting to it. And you know, you fast forward 10 years after that fact, I saw him and I said, "Hey, man, I saw him different than when I saw him at 10 years old. This loving, happy-go-lucky kid, all this energy."
Yeah.
And 20 years later, we're in Boca Raton, and the blinds are drawn, and it's sunny outside, and I'm like, this is my first time seeing him since he was 10. And I'm like, dude, what are you doing here with the blinds drawn on 1 o'clock in the day of Boca Raton? It's sunny outside. After I saw that, I said, man, you got to come live with me
Yep.
for a year.
Man, it's so funny because I'm just thinking about how connected we are.
Yeah.
It's amazing.
So it was like he came back, and Tonio now, man, Tonio is doing well.
Yeah, he is.
You
And
know?
now he's living with me.
Now he's going back to his youth. At some point, he's probably gonna be back this way.
Exactly.
but that started from that relationship.
And it's amazing
15
because
years ago.
when he talks about what he wants to do, it is to be in this business, not business, I guess this environment of
because
healing.
he still has healing work to do
Yeah,
for
he
himself.
does.
And
He
that's really what we're truly seeking, and why we typically want to be in this business. Because
Right.
even though I'm in this business, I have my times where I'm like, I'm kind of done with this business, you know. In its terms of, I can't be there in the facility doing what I used to. You know that.
Oh my
I was
gosh.
there all the time.
There were no hours for you.
Right. So now it's like, no, I can do this business. I can work on the business instead of in the business.
Right.
And that's a transition that most business owners look for, right? At
Yes.
some point, and you are a business owner. So that's another thing,
Oh,
too,
yeah.
that we ain't talked about is that, because you were, I forgot you were doing Mary Kay. You remember
I was
that?
doing Mary Kay.
And you was killing it,
I
too. You
was.
had the car and
I
everything,
did.
right?
Yes.
I forgot, though, like, you was a hustler.
I was, and it's funny because I remember thinking back to where did I get that from? And I remember as a kid, growing up, we had nothing. We were super broke.
And you grew up where?
In Southwest Detroit and on the west side of Detroit.
Mm-hmm.
So we just kind of bounced around Detroit. But I eventually ended up in Southwest Detroit, which is notoriety. What am I trying to say? Mexican town.
Yeah.
So, I spent most of my time there. But growing up, my parents were addicts. My father was an alcoholic, and he wasn't necessarily a functioning one either. He was a mess. And that's how he dealt with his stuff. And my mother was a heroin addict since she was 16 years old. And, she had us when she was 21. She had my older sister when she was 17. So she was a really young mom and, dealing with all this stuff. So, these are my parents. These are the people that are supposed to be providing. And they just struggled from day one, you know. And so growing up, I kind of had this sense of responsibility that the only way that I was going to get out of the situation that I was in was if I did it myself and I figured it out. And that sucks to think about when you're a kid. You know, like
you lost a whole period of safety.
Yeah.
Absolutely. And being able to
and
feel
security,
safe and consistent and like, I'm good.
Yeah. So, we were eventually taken away from my mother. We were put into the foster care system. And, it was a lot of transitioning, like what family member was going to take us. And we were with this aunt for 2 years, and we were with that, my grandmother for another 4. And we moved back and forth between here and Canada because my mother is Native American. So that's another thing we can talk about is how prevalent, addiction is in that community. And so I didn't really understand her that way. I just knew that addiction was everywhere.
Yeah. Well, let's go look into it. As you was talking about culturally, you're native, part native,
half
Mexican,
Native American,
right?
Yeah.
And Mexican,
and
right?
Mexican Native.
And you talking about, the addiction from the alcohol, and you talk about the heroin. And so then we talk about Black people in our culture and addiction. Like, addiction runs in my family. It's not that it runs in the family. Fucking pain runs in our family.
Numbing.
From slavery.
Yeah.
And mass genocide.
Yeah.
So it's not that. Then I think we have to start framing it this way. Addiction does not run in our family.
You're right.
Pain runs in our family from some people who decided, narcissistic system, that they decided that they was going to kill you off and that they was going to enslave us and kill us off if we weren't going to be enslaved.
Yeah.
So then you have this group that grow up that lives in environments where we're alcoholics and whatever drug addictions, whatever, but you pump you pump the drugs into these environments too, because you already know they're in pain, right? So what's the quickest way out of pain?
Numb.
The drugs, the
Numb
alcohol.
it. Yeah. Escape.
I get tired of this whole, it's a disease. No, the pain.
Yeah. That energy.
Dr. Gabor Mate talks about that. It's not why the drugs or the addiction, is why the pain.
Yeah.
And since we don't, so me and you, we start early on figuring out the pain.
Yeah.
And an interesting thing is your pain was different than my pain, but it's still pain.
Yeah, absolutely.
The brain and the body still, whether you fell off a bike or whether you were abandoned, pain and trauma happen in the body in the same type of response. So we had to go through this unraveling process, you know, and I feel like I made it. And childhood for me was really good. You learned how to be a hustler through knowing that you need to survive. I learned how to be a hustler because I saw my dad, and he told me at a young age. I remember the story. We were trying to go on a field trip, and they needed somebody to drive the bus for, you know, the field trip. This might have been first, second grade. And so they're like, well, we don't have anybody to drive the bus. So my dad, he volunteers, like, I'll drive the bus. And I asked him, I said, you know how to drive a bus? He said, man, I know how to drive a tank. And when you're a little boy and you hear that your dad says, I can drive a tank. And then
is your superhero.
He doesn't say that. He goes and drives the bus, and I'm on a field trip and I'm standing next to him while he drives the bus. So that's just one experience. My dad is like, when you think about a black dad, and there's many of them out there, where that Michael Jordan energy, that's in a lot of black dads. My dad would bet everybody. I bet you I do this. I bet you I do that. And he'll go do it and he'll win.
And I've met Art.
You met him.
And he is 100% like that.
That's his energy.
Yes.
That I grew up with that energy. And my mom is on the same level that too, in her own way. They took their survival energy in these addict households and turned that towards, I'm going to overachieve. So I grew up in an environment where it's more safety and stuff, but I see that and I use that energy in that way.
That's amazing.
But you had to you learned it in a totally different way than I did.
Right.
You know?
Absolutely.
But then you have to look at, you know, what are some of the things, the traumas that we experience that hold us down from really fully being able to use that in a way where you're trying to achieve to feel better.
Right.
You know?
Yeah.
You ever got stuck in that?
Yes, I have. It's like, just keep doing, and that's my worth. And it's like, no, it's not. It's how you actually feel about yourself. And that took me a long time to learn. I thought, well, once I do this, I'm going to be happy.
Right.
Once I get this, I'm going to be happy. Once I'm in, a good relationship, I'm going to be happy. And I started to, and it's funny because it's very cliche for us to say, like, you can't find happiness outside of yourself. It's only within yourself. And you're like, yeah, but what the hell does that mean? And then you realize you get all those things and you're like, I'm not happy. That's interesting. Where's my happiness? And then you realize your happiness is boundaries. Your happiness is healthy relationships. Your happiness is, how peaceful you find, how peaceful you feel, and how you can find joy in everything.
Well, and that's the level of gratitude you're talking about. Because you have to be grateful for those small things.
Right.
Otherwise, you keep wanting more.
You become insatiable.
There was this cartoon, this Looney Tunes cartoon back in the day with these two, it was a mouse or something and two dogs, and they would rob these like eateries, whatever. And then the big one would always say, "Man, do you forget the gravy?" And then one time he was always asking, "Did you forget the gravy?" There's one time the little dog like set him up where he was like, "I didn't forget the gravy," and he just kept pumping him with gravy, man, to the dude. This guy's super huge, man, about to blow up. It's like, no, this time I didn't forget the gravy, right? Because this dog just had this desire. I need the gravy. I need the gravy. It's just a funny cartoon back in the day. I can just remember that cartoon and seeing it that way and at that time, visualizing that about gluttony.
Ooh, yeah.
And that's something we've been talking a lot about on the podcast, is because we're going through a time where everything, you can have everything, all the stimulus you want,
Yeah.
and it's still never enough.
Right. Do you know that that's funny? Because during COVID, the first lockdown, that was my biggest lesson. I had access to everything, but nothing to do. So I realized I was literally just consuming. I was buying stuff. I was eating stuff. I was drinking. I was doing anything and everything to be okay alone with myself. And I'm like, oh my gosh, I'm not used to this. I'm used to being up, getting up, going, having things to do, talking to people in, communication. And this was the first time that I had to sit still with myself. And I realized the patterns that I basically ignored because I'm so busy doing life, and all these little patterns were like, consumption is what's going to bring me happiness. And it was all these things that now I'm here a year and a half later, and I'm like, so many changes have to be made from that. But I think a lot of the times people don't have the capacity to look at themselves and go, okay, this is what needs to be adjusted, or this is what I'm doing wrong, or that I want to change. A lot of people don't even get there, And I think through, especially what are we like almost 15 years later, this process, because this process doesn't end just because I'm saying this. Like I said, every time we say something positive, it's not that it was easy. It sounds very simple, but it wasn't easy.
No.
I still fall back into my own negative ways, my own negative thinking, wanting to consume. And I have to go, okay, that's not it. That's not your happiness. So I still deal with things. It's not like I just all of a sudden, whew, I'm healed. This is over. I'm finally going to be happy for the rest of my life. No, it's like literal work on
It's
some
ongoing.
days.
Yeah.
And then some days it's easy.
Well, if you liken it to fitness, it's pain involved building the muscles, right? And we were both heavily into fitness at one point. It's pain involved into building those muscles. But the studies show that to build it is one level. To maintain it I think it takes not even a quarter of the amount to maintain.
Nice.
So no matter how long, how much as it's gotten, as I go through the journey, there's still more. As you get stronger and those levels get more, to maintain it takes less because you know how to let stuff go a lot sooner too when you're dealing with stuff. Because you have the space now to be like, yo, that's cool, but I don't need it.
Right. Yeah.
Like I can't go into a store and be sold anything.
Yeah.
Because I don't need anything. Oh, you need this. No, I don't.
Oh my gosh. You know what analogy I always remember from, and you taught me this. This is something that you would say, and I don't know where you heard it from, but it's always in my head. You always say something about like a cup, and I'm gonna butcher this.
Okay, go ahead. Get your version.
I'm not very good at telling jokes or anything. But you have a cup and it's full of trauma, right? And then once you start learning your tools and you start learning I'm going to call them healing modalities because I know that that's what they're called. But back then I didn't know that's what they were called. I just knew like things to help you feel better and healed. So all of a sudden you start, working with these tools, and that cup of trauma starts getting smaller and smaller. And when trauma comes up, now you've got a little puddle in that cup. And now you have all the tools to take care of that and go, okay, I see you. You're still there. But I have all these tools to deal with you now. Yep. And you're not going to consume me. And then that's something that I always have to remind myself, like, you have the tools. You've been doing the work, like you're in a good place. Start making good decisions. And once you do that, once you start to experience those longer spans of peace and happiness and joy, and I can get through that. I got through that last time. I can get through it again this time. And then it's like rinse and repeat until it starts to feel like normal. And then the traumas don't feel good anymore. And you're like, okay, I know what I got to do. I know what tools to use for this. I know what tools to use for that, you know, and it's just really cool. I love like when we actually have conversation. I'm like, have you heard of this? And you're like, yeah, of course I have. And I'm like, oh my gosh, I tried it and it was amazing. Like when I first started tapping.
Oh, EFT, emotional
Yeah.
freedoms technique. Yeah, I've done a lot of that early
Yeah.
on. But what you're talking about is the emotional container.
Right. Oh, the emotional container.
Yeah, it's the emotional container, and I got that. I believe I got that either from Lee Gertis or David Berceli. I can't remember,
Oh,
but
from the beginning.
from the beginning.
Yeah.
The emotional container, and I did that same conversation at the Detroit Police Department. I talked to them about it. It's like if you have that cup, and that cup is spilling over
You're right.
because they don't have the ability to pour the cup out. They don't have the ability to regulate their nervous system, so that cup just stays continually running over. So when you meet people and road rage, no, that's a full cup. It's not road rage. It's a full cup.
Oh my gosh.
Burnout.
You explain it so much
It's
better.
a full cup.
Yeah.
You're trying to do more, and you don't have. When we talk about the first tools, the first tools are not the modalities. The first tools is here. Your resources, your internal resources, and if that cup is full, your internal resources are tapped out.
Right.
You ever tried to, you open a browser and you have 10, 20 browser pages open
At all
and your
times,
stuff
me.
is going slow?
Yeah.
So from a technology standpoint, go Control Alt Delete, hit the button Task Manager, and you can pull up your Task Manager. You can see how the computer resources are operating in real time.
Yeah.
And you'll see, damn, why is my Internet Explorer, Chrome, whatever you use, using all of my resources? Well, damn, you got 50 tabs open. You got to close some tabs out.
Yeah.
And literally, that's how it is with our nervous system. The brain, the body is so revved up from it's still charged from that trauma that, because people are using the word trauma now, and they so new to trauma.
Yes.
And I don't want to have this bougie trauma moment, but we were talking about this 15 years ago, and we were learning it from the brain-body standpoint.
Yeah. Yeah.
We did brain maps. And so we can literally see on this map, your cup is full.
Yeah.
And all these people came in with full cups.
Yeah.
And we would train them, and that nervous system would regulate.
Yeah.
And all of a sudden, you back to normalcy. You're back to humanity. You're back to what's called co-regulation and safety. And then when you get into safety, now you got your internal resources back. Now you have to figure out, and you had to figure out, and I had to figure out, well, now that I got my resources back or I got more space, what am I going to do? Oh, I'm going to go move to Orlando.
Yeah.
That gave you enough space, enough belief in yourself.
Ooh.
And the belief was already there. It didn't
Right.
give you the belief. You already had those beliefs in yourself that you're going to take care of yourself and you're going to make it. You just needed some space to be able to use your body and your vessel and to say, well, I'm packing up and I'm going. Remember?
Absolutely.
Remember you had to get a car? You remember that?
I just
the
packed-
dealership got a car and everything.
Yes.
Remember that?
I went and I was like, I need to buy a car. I'm gonna go lease one.
Yeah.
I couldn't believe they leased me a car. But I filled it up. That's all I had. My whole life fit in a little 2-door sporty car and my kid in the back. And I moved. And that was scary. And it took me a long time to adjust, longer than I thought it would. And it was amazing because I felt even lonelier there. Because then I didn't even have friends. And I had, a circle, which was, I will always appreciate. But there was no actual foundation or connection with these people until obviously time passed on. But in the beginning, I was a mess. I was sad. I cried almost every day. And it was difficult because I never wanted my daughter to see that. She was a happy kid. And I was like, oh my gosh, this is what childhood
Why are you
should be
crying,
like.
mommy?
Yeah, I don't want her to caretake me. And there's another word I learned in therapy, and that's what we do. We put, what I see is like some mothers, what they do is they put, or parents in general, they put their emotional baggage onto their kids. Like, oh, you're there to make me feel better. You know, they don't realize they're doing it. No, I'm not saying that people are like terrible, but they use their kids as their source of happiness. And I just never wanted to be that. So I started to put up a wall and go, okay, this is my stuff. She can't see this, and this is not going to be about her, you know? And it took me a couple of years to get through that. But, you know, I never stopped. Like I started coming back here, and I remember when I really broke down there.
And when you broke down there, that's when you came up and you spent about what, like
3 months.
3 months. Yeah.
And I was like, I need to get back to that little space of freedom and joy that I felt. I need it back. And once we went through those 3 months and I was training with you, and I even came back home for the first time, like I went to the reservation and I spent a month out there with my family, and I felt like this instant recharge. And I think that's what people don't realize is like healing is an action. You have to get up and do something. And I didn't have money. So it's not like I could go spend money on therapy or, you know, whatever. So I went to my family and I went to my friends, and I was like, I need your help. And I think that's another thing people don't do is they don't go, I need help.
Well, to be honest with you, a lot of people's families and friends is the reason why they're in the place that they are in. You know, the trauma that they're in. So it's like, what am I going to ask them for? But asking help from the people who actually can give it to you.
Right. That is such a good point.
So I think it's that's the point you're trying to make. Not so much about asking help from your family, because it's not, you may not be able to get it from your family. And that's the case, then you need to learn how to be okay with that real quick. Real quick, you have to.
Absolutely.
Because a lot of us will be mourning our family. Like, I wish so-and-so was just like this. I wish they were like this. And I used to glamorize certain cultures, you know, like whose grandparents had, you know, was in their lives and stuff. And I'm like, yo, my mom and dad, like, listen, my mom and dad's phenomenal far as I'm concerned. I grew up in Detroit, and they grew up in, you know, very, you know, not so great environments, but they had a little bit enough space to be like, yeah, my kid's not going through that. So I appreciate them. And that's that, you know what? If I ain't got nothing else, I had that.
Yeah.
But along the way,
right.
I was mothered and fathered by other
mothers
and fathers.
I was gonna say that too. You do. You eventually find people that you align with, and that's important. And that takes action as well, because I know once I get into a deep, dark place, I initially just want to isolate. I don't want to talk to anyone. I'm in a deep depression. I don't want to speak to anyone. I don't want to tell them what I'm going through. I don't even want to talk about it. I don't want to face it, right? And then it takes like just this glimmer of hope, like maybe this can change. And that's when you reach out and you realize who actually is there for you. And you're surprised because you're like, oh, wait a minute, this person actually cares that much to listen or help or do anything, just be there for you. And I found, thankfully, that friendship in you as well. And so I was able to come back and work on myself. And from then, my life changed. As soon as I got back to Orlando, what happened? I made some very difficult decisions. I had to find roommates because obviously I didn't have any money saved. I wasn't making money. I didn't have a job. I was homeless, basically, you know. Thankfully, my daughter's father was taking care of her, so he was definitely helping through the process. So always, you know, gratitude to the people that got me here, you know. But at that point, I had to start over, literally all over again. My car, I think, broke down. I didn't have a license anymore. Like, I had no money to do anything. And I just was like, can I live with you guys? Can I get some roommates? And that's kind of it. I had to start all over. So even though, I'm you know, thriving finally, it's literally like you take 2 steps forward and then 3 steps back. And then you go, okay, I know that when I took those 2 steps before, it worked.
Right.
Let me do it again, and this time see what happens. But I had my cup wasn't overflowing anymore. Yeah. Because I did the work, you know, and I took care of myself, and I made some really difficult decisions. I had to humble myself and be like, okay.
Well, and the things that are in that cup too.
Yeah.
Because what happens is you you need to empty the cup, but you got to understand what is it that was in that cup that was kept bringing it back up to the surface anyway. And a lot of times it's certain relationships because you're still holding on to unresolved wounds from parents that you're still trying to fulfill. And you think if you let this person go, you let the parent go. It's really, it's not just, man, it's not for the faint of heart.
No.
You know, everything that you described now took, because I wasn't there, but I was there. You know what I'm saying? With you in my own journey and your own journey. And we were both on the opposite sides of the tracks, moving forward in the way that we could. And I got stuff that was happening along my healing journey.
Yeah.
Like, I didn't just come in to just do these tools and like, oh, amazing. Like, I never tried to share in that way. What happened for me was, damn, I had anxiety. I had panic attacks. Now I don't have to have 3 anxiety attacks in a day.
That's a lot.
You know? Or when I'm about to go somewhere. I was a high performing actor at that point in Florida.
Basically.
On the stage, to the point where I'm not doing that. I'm not getting up there. I should be thinking like, how in the world did I do this? Because I'm so anxious right now. It's because my cup was spilling over, and I needed like a needle to pop that bubble, you know, of the anxiety. Like, but then I'm feeling it.
Yeah.
And it took me 15 years to be here now. And along the way, I can see things that I did that helped me. And so then here we go. All that knowledge that it took, all them years, now I can sit back and I can be like, you need to do this.
Okay, so here it's so funny because I was literally on my way up here. We were driving from Nashville. That's where I live now. I eventually moved out of Orlando. But we're driving up here, me and my daughter. And I said, you just got to listen to me when it comes to like relationship advice because I messed everything up in so many relationships. And it's so funny how many times she comes to me and she's like, you're right. And it's like, and this goes with all relationships, personal relationships, friendships with family. And I'm like, I've been through it all and I messed them all up. And I also healed them, you know, in my own way and realized and got to points with certain relationships and certain people where you're this, you're there. Everybody has their own space in my life or you have no space at all. And before, I just wanted love. So I let everybody in. Everybody was, I'll take it from anyone and I'll take it in any way or form. And I was like, now that, you know, I'm older and wiser and 15 years later and I look back and I go, oh, that was a mistake. Don't do that. Or this looks like that. Don't do that. You know, and so that changed me incredibly as a mother. It made such a huge difference when I could apply all these principles and learn from all of my mistakes. It was an absolutely incredible journey because now I have this amazing child who anyone who meets her, they're like, what did you do? How did she become so amazing? And I'm like, I'm writing a book about it.
No, I remember when Valencia was like 3 years old, like just some of the stuff you were like teaching this girl at 2 or 3. And she's very advanced to be 2 or 3. She don't even remember. She's sitting over there. It's like, I have this recollection and it always like you seen these movies like, girl, you know, I used to change a diaper or something like that. Like I have one of them old head moments where I'm like, girl, you know when you brought me that glass of water when you was 2 years old? That I have one of those moments, you know, that. But I'm like, she don't remember any of that. But I do remember that, again, she was around brain training equipment and stuff at like 2, 3 years old. You're in the energy. You're in the environment that's talking about these things.
Right.
And you start to learn and grow, and now you're sharing that stuff to her. So she has a different understanding of trauma that most people just now starting to come into, and she's been hearing about it for a long time.
Yeah.
You know,
and it's been acceptable in our house. It has been something that we can talk about and we can explore and we can, it's funny, like when she talks to her friends, they're like, "Don't therapize me," you know, and it's like,
That's what they say to her.
yes,
Yeah, because they know she sees stuff.
yes,
That's when people want to say that to you.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, don't psychoanalyze me. You mean don't see you?
right, see you for who you are.
Because I see you.
Oh yeah,
I see everything you're
Yep.
doing, and it doesn't have to be about a judgment that
No.
but I'm seeing you.
It's an observance.
You
like,
should be
You
observant.
understand,
I'm not saying overanalyze.
right?
But I'm definitely analyzing. When I go to the gas station, my head is on a swivel. I don't care where I'm at.
I love that because I'm not like that at all.
No, it's a Detroit man trait.
Okay.
Yo, I don't care where I'm at. My head is turning because Ra's al Ghul from Batman, he said, "Always mind your surroundings."
Yeah.
Like I need to know what's around me.
Me, I'm an energy person. So if something feels off, I'm like, all right, it's time to go. You know. So I'm
Yeah.
not. You know, I think maybe women are more.
I think
More
men
like
are,
that?
no, men are like that too. I'm really like that. I mean, we go into a facility. We go into like we went to the Nas and Mary J. Blige concert, and I went with a couple people from my dance community.
Love.
Couple of them, some white ladies, and they wanted to go to the thing. And I told my homegirl Lucia, I said, "Look, I'm gonna give you the cue of when it's time to be out."
Okay.
And she telling them like, "Yo, y'all need to listen to David. Listen to David right now." I said, "I'll give y'all the cue." Because when I start seeing when them drinks start hitting,
Yeah.
you know, we coming out of Auburn Hills, I can't remember, amphitheater or whatever. And like I'm gonna give y'all the cue. And I saw, yo, she ain't doing no more drama. I said, well, after she do no more drama, we gotta go. Nas already done. And I said, oh, okay, I'm seeing people. No, we gotta go. It's like
Yeah.
because getting out of concerts and stuff is wild.
Absolutely.
So we always like, it ain't nothing that great for me to stay at the end unless I'm about to meet Nas. And then I'll just wait till everybody go.
Yeah.
But I'm leaving early. That's just a skill you pick up. And when you start doing that healing work more, you start to become more sensitive to things and people. Mm-hmm. Like, I just heard what you just said. Like, did you? What you just said and what you just did was so incongruent. Now I'm storing that in my head. Not meaning I'm going to do anything with it right now, but you start to collect data on people.
It's amazing. I like somebody new just started hanging around us, and I remember they said, you and your daughter constantly talk about trauma. And I go, do we? I'm like, oh. Because, I don't know if it's like just an after effect that happens, but we notice everything. We start to talk about it. We start to look at ourselves and going, oh, I know where that came from. And I know what this looks like or why society is this way. Like it starts to become a whole topic about everything is about trauma, but it's also about healing. And I didn't realize it was coming out so much. And it was just because when you meet somebody for the first time or you spend time with somebody for the first time, you're like, all these little light bulbs are going off, green flags, red flags, light bulbs, And when you're in that space and you're trying to, see, like, is this person a good fit in my life or not? You pay attention, And I realize that it's an advantage, but it is also, it's like a blessing and a curse, right? Like, you see everything now.
I definitely, I know exactly what you mean. Because in the beginning, my body, and now that I sit here with you and I go back to that time, our energies were both in a very, it's not broken. That's not the
Chaotic.
right word. But it was, our cups were filled.
Yeah.
For sure. Right. In their different ways. And they were manifesting in their different ways. Because now I sit here and I'm like, man, we're in a totally different place than when we were when we first, first met you. So now I'm like, I go back to that place and I think about how sensitive, because I had just went to Arizona too. After that, I was like an open wound. After that, it's because I came out of freeze.
Absolutely.
And when I came out of freeze, that's when I started feeling the more anxiety because you got because again, you're pouring a cup out. So in the pouring the cup out, this stuff hitting against that glass. You know what I'm saying? It's coming up and out, and I felt all of it, and it took me years to go through my body, layer by layer, and start to try to rebalance and reconnect pieces of myself. And because of that, now I have such a contrast that if somebody say, Dave, you sensitive, I'm like, you right. But I ain't Ralph Tresvant sensitive. I'm sensitive because I'm aware to the suit that I live in, the body has a peripheral nervous system that's sensitive to your environment, that's sensitive to what people say and what they do. That's waking up to yourself and having the awareness. And I had to have the contrast though. I don't get here and have this contrast without feeling not well and sick. And that's the difference. That's the power of doing the work. You gain contrast. And when you start going back that way, you're like, no. This is going the wrong way.
Yeah.
You know, if you put in your GPS and you start going a certain way, your map is like rerouting. Like you got to go back. No, go. And if that's the only way you can go, it's gonna keep telling you to go back that way, even though you're going the wrong way.
Yeah,
that's your internal guidance system. And each time you came up and you did these services, you got a little bit more space, bit more space. So now I see it. It's not about the healing per se, in terms of the word of healing. It's about the space and the letting go of the bullshit you picked up that blocks you from being who you really are to begin with.
Yes.
Because you just conditioned by the environment.
Absolutely. You know, what I was telling you is that I finally started writing again. I've been writing a book for the last 5 years, right?
Really?
Yes. And especially since after I spent time here, everything opened up. You actually had me write a journal, right?
I did.
And I started writing and I thought, I could do this because even now I think I still have it. I reread it maybe a year ago and I was like, oh, that's what was happening with me. And I would be curious to I'll probably put it in the book too, just to share. But you know, I'm going back right now and I'm rewriting this stuff and I'm feeling it again because you're like, oop, it's coming up. But it did not feel anything like it used to before. It was like happy tears or sad tears, but it's okay. I'm here now. It was literally like I was getting through those moments so differently than I ever have because I'm revisiting from my. So I remember one time I did this thing where you're supposed to pick like your most traumatic memory in your childhood, and then you sit with that with your little girl, because I'm a girl, or I identify as a girl, and I'm sitting. You know, you sit with her and you comfort her and you tell her you're safe, and I remember bawling, and this must have been 2 years ago, right? And I'm like, I'm a mess. I'm writing about this right now, and I'm okay. I'm a little sad because I was like, oh, I feel, God, I wish I could hold her, you know, and comfort her. And then I realized I can. I am here. Yeah. And I am comforting her, and she's safe, and I'm her safety. You know, and then I start writing about that part of the story. Like, yes, it's a sad story, but there's this also basically how I have gotten through it. You know, like this is my map. And so what I just, you know, I love writing, which I find is amazing. Everyone has their outlet, you know, and that is mine. So I decided, okay, I'm going to write this book and I'm going to talk about my experiences, but mostly I'm going to talk about my healing. And I started to look and I'm like, wow, a lot of it's really, really sad. But it's like, yeah, you know why? Because it was sad. Yeah. But you know, before it would be... It was sad.
Not that it is sad, because is would imply that it exists.
You're right.
You know, that's the thing. It don't even exist anymore.
No,
so it only exists in your body. Right. You know? Yeah. That's the story that we're still holding on to. Is that's what I could tell you. You got to do the work inside, because you're still holding on to things that don't even, that don't even exist anymore.
Absolutely.
You know?
Yeah. And I look at those pages and I go, yeah, that's what happened. But that's not where I am now.
Yeah.
And I remember like when I used to tell that story or, you know, to anyone I was close to or anyone, you know, like my personal relationships, and I would be a hot mess. I would just completely break down. And now, you know, here I am, and I'm realizing that this story is now a part of healing, but it's also something that I'm proud of, that I got through that, and that there's so many more people that have or are going through that, and they don't think there's a way out, and they don't think that there's a future.
You know what the way
above.
out is, though? It's interesting you said that, because the word, I told somebody something. I said, man, because something happened to me recently. I was going through stuff. And one of my, Dr. Jake has been around me for a minute, at least 7 years. And he's seen me go through some things in business, man. Because I would go to him and go get an adjustment, go get my nutritional testing and all that stuff right with him. And, you know, he knew it was something that was just happening at that moment. And I said, Jake, you've seen me go through a lot. I said, but the one thing that you can say is that you've seen me go through it.
Ooh. Yeah.
You didn't see me stop. He said, man, you're resilient. Because that's not going to stop me. You know? And so the words that you said, people going through their stories, the only way out of it is to go through it.
Oh my gosh, yes.
And you have to acknowledge what it is you're going through. Like you said, that little girl who was sad and these stories were sad, they were sad.
Were.
And you got to acknowledge that they were sad.
Absolutely.
And that they were messed up.
Yeah.
But they no longer exist now.
Right.
Now it's a part that you have to integrate. So you take that energy that was present, that your nervous system got all flustered about and tried to defend and do all these things. That's really the gift.
Yeah.
Because you now have that energy inside of you that would move. Again, we talked about moving from post-traumatic stress to post-traumatic growth. This is a thing.
I don't think we've talked about that.
That's what's been happening within your nervous system. You've been moving from post-traumatic stress. Because when I met you, you had post-traumatic stress.
Oh, absolutely.
Right.
Oh, yeah.
So when you say now when I revisit it, those triggers aren't there. Why? Because you've transformed that energy into something else. That energy no longer exists in you the same way that it did. If it does, that means that's where you need to go and address.
Right. And here's the thing. When I do find those triggers still affecting me today, I see them and I go, oh, I know what that is. Time to do some work.
Yeah.
Because it's constant work, like we keep talking about. But I love that, like you use that, like to go through it, and that it was the past and things like that. And I think that's really important for us. Like the wordage that we use is so powerful. And I have been practicing that for probably the last year. I really got into deep meditation about a year ago, and I could never sit still, focus, do any of that before. And then I found, you know, we find our way that we can do it. And I found it. And I started to find myself even at night. So say I had a really hard day, and at night I'd go, okay, sweetheart, you know, I would say all the things that I want to hear, thought I wanted to hear from other people that would make me feel better. And I say them to myself out loud. I'll lay down. Okay, sweetheart, you had such a long day. It's okay. Everything's gonna be great. Like it's, you know, you did amazing today. And I talk to myself in a very, like, terms of endearment, loving, beautiful, like you look so beautiful today, and everything, and tomorrow's gonna be just as amazing. You know, there's some times that I have to, you know, talk to myself like that, and I don't think we talk to ourselves like that.
No,
you know?
We can't have positive self-talk
Right.
if we have negative self-talk.
Okay,
You know? Like,
good point.
You can't have positive self-talk if you have negative self-talk. You know, if you've been experiencing certain things and haven't been put in certain arenas to understand how to nurture yourself or to begin to parent yourself.
Yes.
And I want to go down this rabbit hole.
Yes.
Beauty. Because your business devoted to beauty, and you've been in the beauty industry for a long time. But at the same time, I know you've had, like, I'm sure you had some adversarial moments with it, because that industry as a collective pushes women to have negative self-talk.
Absolutely. like, oh, like let's adjust that. Let's change that nose and let's change this wrinkle or this gray hair.
So I was gonna ask you, like, what you have the gray hairs, and most people in your industry would say, "Why you didn't dye your hair?" I think it looks good on you.
And it's kind of funny because now, like, the artists, they're like, "Oh my gosh, I love your strip," and I'm like, "Really? That's cool, thanks." Because it took me a long time to get there personally. It took so 3 years ago. Oh, I also do, which. Like I said, we find our ways of healing. But I personally, in my culture, we do ceremonies of healing ceremonies. And I've talked about this with you before. It's a 4-year process. And I remember was talking to the medicine man, and he said, "You need to stop coloring your hair." He felt a presence of like pain in my head. And he was like, "I need you to stop doing it." And I was like, I'm a hairstylist. Like, you can't ask me to do that. I color my own hair at home in front of the mirror to get rid of that gray strip, And so for me, it was vanity. That's all it was. And I went through a really, really difficult relationship. And so many things were happening in my life. And business was scary, like it was just everything. And I remember like my hair started falling out. Like I must have lost about half of my hair.
Wow, because you have a lot of hair.
I do. Because you be trying to put those little.
Man, I forgot all about that. It was brain training this girl try to put those sensors in her hair. You brought those clips, man. Your hair was thick.
I know, you can barely fit it in there.
I forgot all about that.
Fast forward to this time in my life, and I've lost half of it. So. I kept thinking, oh my gosh, that medicine man told me not to color my hair anymore. And I said, okay, I did it for 7 months. And then I would look at myself and I go, oh my God, you're so ugly. You look so old, and I started coloring again. And I remember going back to Sundance. That's the name of the ceremony. It's a 4-year commitment. So I think about my 4th year. It was my last year. That year, my intention was to heal myself and to love myself, because you go into your ceremonies every year and you work on that for a year. And so when I came out of Sundance, I go, now's the time to work on me. And I did. And I started to let it grow, And I remember it's been a year and a half now. No, 2 years. It's been 2 years. So it's almost fully grown out all the way to my ends. Almost all the color is gone. But I remember looking at myself and having to tell myself, like, you're still beautiful. Like, that's gray hair.
Right.
That's not you.
Right.
And I think, and it's really sad because I think that's, like you were saying, where I start to find that push and pull about, yes, I'm enhancing people's features, and I'm, changing them, quote unquote. And I realized, for me personally as a brand, I realized that that's not what I'm trying to push. What I push is I'm just bringing out what you already have. And then it becomes more about the experience. How do I make you feel when I'm in your presence? Do I make you feel beautiful? Do I make you feel self-confident? Are you happy? Are you excited about your day after you leave me? And it becomes about this connection that I make with my clients now. And I've taught my team this too. Like, who cares about the makeup? Who cares about the hair? At the end of the day, it's how do you make them feel? Yeah. Because I could put blue lipstick on somebody and I bet you I can make them love it because of how I make them feel about it. And so I started to look at beauty a little bit different for the industry. Is like, it's more about how we feel about ourselves when we look at ourselves.
I remember, man. Sorry.
What? Tell me.
I remember, man, I had a photographer come in and shoot some pictures. And I remember you got on me so hard. You like, you need to edit these pictures. And I was like, yeah. Because I was like, there's nothing wrong with them. No, they need to edit these pictures. Like, it's a difference between modeling, editing, and I was just like.
I was on it.
But again, we got to understand from a man's viewpoint and a woman's viewpoint, we don't see the same flaws that y'all see because we're not programmed the same. In some cultures now, Some cultures do uphold their women to that same standard that the woman is at in terms of you got on this, fingernail polish and
Yeah.
that need to match that.
Yeah.
I ain't looking at that like, oh, you
Right?
that don't even match like Cat Williams. Oh, that's plum and peach. Oh, I can't even mess with you. I don't even want to
Exactly.
holler at you
I'm
no more. I'm done. Like we don't look at those things. But
we are very critical of
the
ourselves.
internet though.
Oh,
So
yes.
how are you? We got Valencia over here who's super beautiful, and how is she? But how are you helping her be able to navigate this? This new world is nasty when it comes to women and what y'all supposed to look like. 10,000 surgeries a day in Miami. This is.
I
Again,
almost signed
don't know
up for one of those. Trust me.
What you were gonna do? What?
I was gonna do all of it.
Really?
A whole mommy makeover.
You was about to get the BBL too?
All of it.
Oh man, you was about to come out here just
looking like a whole nother person.
witness protection, huh?
Like, who is this
Who
girl?
is that? That's Angelica.
What? Where did that come from?
What stopped you?
It's so funny. I wanted to do it after like a breakup. And I think, trust me, like, when like women have a breakup, they're like, I want to cut my hair.
See, trauma, y'all always doing something. You got a whole change of your hair.
Yes.
Yeah, you got traumatized.
Change your hair. So I always know, like, when somebody wants to cut off like 20 inches of their hair, I'm like, did you just go through a breakup, honey? And that's another cool thing is, like, as a hairstylist, you connect with people differently. So I had the most amazing experience of being able to communicate with people in that way and for them to trust me and be in that space. And I think that helped me so much as a mother in general, because you can't judge people. You either sit there and you let them vent, or you ask, do you want my advice? And I realized that that's huge. That another thing that people don't ask either, And so here we are, I have this teenager, and she's looking at herself going, wow, I don't look like anybody, and, we're in a predominantly white, school. And she's like, no one has curly hair and no one has my skin color, and it's for her. And I'm sure this is it, whether you're in that environment or not, you're still going to always look at yourself and think, if I had straighter hair, if I had curlier hair, if I had darker skin, if I had lighter eyes, if I had this and I had that, right? And it didn't really hit until she actually went to middle school, and she was like, man, these girls are wearing highlighter, contour, eyeliner, lipstick. They're wearing, all this stuff. And I go, okay. I go, is that what you want to do? And that's another thing. Like, we have to give our kids choices. We can't just be like, you can't wear makeup. You can't have a boyfriend. You can't drink. You can't. And it's kind of this thing where I go, you have to give. And I know this is not for all kids either, because I know some kids just, you let them make decisions for themselves and they're just going to go off the deep end.
I'm about to say, no, I don't agree with that. But from a man perspective, no, you ain't wearing that makeup.
Right. So for me, well, here's what I had to do. So this is what I did with her. I said, when you go to school and you don't have makeup on, do people talk, still talk to you? Do people think you're still pretty? And she's like, yeah. I go, okay. Now let's talk about the girls who do wear a lot of makeup. I said, do you think that they're pretty? And she's like, yeah. Where are you going with this? Okay. What happens when they come to school and they're not wearing the makeup? What do people say? And they go, oh, are you sick? Are you tired?
So now you got to maintain that standard.
So I go, so were they pretty before the makeup, before they started doing all that? And she's like, yeah. I go, so do you want to wake up every morning and put makeup on to be accepted? Or do you want to just every now and then when you're doing something special, throw on a little bit of eyeliner, a little bit of mascara, like just to kind of spruce things up, make it more fun, make it an experience rather than I need to look a certain way for other people to accept me and to go, you look beautiful.
Yo, that right there, that's powerful right there, because that goes back down to moderation,
Absolutely.
And like, so there was a guy on, not a young guy, but it was a guy on Joe Rogan. I can't remember this guy's name. He's into the psychedelic realm, and he talks about, his coffee journey and getting off of coffee, that he did no coffee for 90 days, because coffee is a drug. And he came back and he said he gave himself a day to do just a little bit of coffee, and he was way more productive he ever been. It was like he didn't have the ability to use coffee in the way that it could be used because he was abusing it.
Yes.
So when you think about the makeup is a supplement. The problem is we coming out here trying to make a full on like what do they call it? Like what was that movie back in the day, man, with Tom Cruise? Mission Impossible, where they would do the whole like you a whole different person.
Yeah. Yeah.
I'm gonna get you, sucker. This movie back in the day with Damon Wayans. You remember that?
I do.
When she was taking the booty off, and remember that even then we were kids and we saw that message was there.
Yes.
That message was there. That she taking the leg off, and by the time he got down to it, he was like, oh. But imagine that message at that time.
Yeah.
It was nowhere near where it is now. So however you present yourself to me, if that's the standard, then now you have to uphold that standard.
Yeah.
Every time I see you. And it's the same thing with the hair situation.
Yeah.
A lot of women can't do anything without like the hair, and it's like, man, like just let it go.
Yeah.
Do it. I think the women that I've seen who've gone natural, I'm like, I don't see an issue with your hair.
You don't see them differently, but we do. And it's so funny because men, I think men think that we dress up for you guys.
No,
we dress up for each other.
No,
right?
I know that.
You know that.
I know that
Okay.
because men don't care.
Right, but women, we're like, we're dressing up for her because we want to look better than her.
But the psychology is not even looking better than her. A lot of time is that you don't want to feel looked down upon.
By her?
By hers. Oh, y'all police each other heavily.
Oh, absolutely.
I mean, y'all do. Look, here's the award show. The dude walks by. We don't care about him. Bring in the woman. Well, what she got on? What is she rocking? Y'all police, and they that is right there. That is a systematic way to destroy y'all. And if you keep partaking in it, then you're going to be in it.
So let me tell you why I decided not to do surgery.
Okay, yeah. Tell me
I
that.
completely forgot about that.
Yeah.
So I was going to go through my breakup, or I went through my breakup, and I thought, well, I'm going to show him what he's missing, which was so stupid. Because, like, he wasn't missing.
He wasn't missing that.
No, because we're not together.
Right. But he couldn't be missing the new you that you were going to get anyway.
Right.
Because he never had that you.
And I was like, watch what I do. And then he's going to really regret it. Right.
Okay.
Oh, God, saying it out loud is so embarrassing. But, you know, that was my psychology at the time. I thought, you know, I'm going to enhance myself and then he's going to really regret it. But I think that's what we think. All women think that. Like at some point in time, or they feel like if you change the outer, the inner is going to change. Okay, I'm gonna be more self-confident, or I'm gonna bag somebody better, and this and that and the other, you know. And I got to this point where, and it was after the pandemic, and I started to meditate, and I started to be inside my own head, and spend time with myself, and kind of recreate. I don't know. I want to say this outward identity that I had, but I was starting to recreate it inside. And I started to go, wow, I really don't care. Like, what's going to happen? I was like, and then I started to look at myself different, and I would look at myself in the mirror and I'd be like, wow, you look so pretty today, you know? And like I said, the words of that affirmations of yourself, affirmations and stuff like that, it wasn't a thing before until meditation. You know, there's so many layers, like we were saying, of the healing, and that was another part of that healing that I went through. And I started spending time with myself and not associating myself with anyone else, or my healing or happiness or joy with anyone else. And once I started to do that, and I started to be within here, I was like, okay, I don't need a different body to be a different person, because even if I have a different body, then who's to say they're not with me for my body rather than me, you know? And here's the thing. if I really care about my body, I'm going to eat better.
Mm.
I'm going to exercise again. I'm going to do all of these things. And I realized when I took those self-love, self-care, whatever things out of my life, that's more importantly when you start to feel low. Like you want to be accepted, you want to be chosen, you want to be
that's
loved.
important. Self-love, self-care.
Yeah.
Because here's the truth that we've been trying to get people to throughout the ages in terms of spirituality and all this motivational stuff, philosophy. Your body is a pharmacy. It creates all of your emotions.
Right.
Nobody ever made you feel anything.
100.
Because your body is just, there's a stimulus. The body creates a response based on the perception of the stimulus. So as you go and you say, I want the Brazilian booty or whatever. I want the tummy tuck or whatever. I don't want all these things. And you say, okay, you want all these things. So why do you want all these things? Well, because I want to feel what? X, Y, Z. So when you look at it, when you look at that equation, you don't care about the booty.
No.
And all the other stuff. You can care less. What you want is the outcome.
Right.
Which is what? To feel better.
Yes.
But who creates the feeling of the better?
You.
So self-care. Self-love.
Yeah.
Takes you down a journey to start to understand and how to create the emotions you want in your body without the middleman.
Right.
We said it in the last episode with me and Julian. We went down this whole track, but that's what it is really is. So now when I sit back and I have an anxious moment about something in business or whatever, and I'm like, so what's going to happen once you get there? Now what?
Yeah.
I'm like, oh, like, do you feel any better now that you got there? Were you trying to use that?
Yeah.
Are you literally going to hold your breath and not breathe until you get to that event? Now you can live again? Now you can breathe again?
Yeah.
What's the whole thing? Waiting to exhale?
Yeah.
Emotion and breath are highly connected.
Yeah.
And a lot of people are holding their breaths. A lot of people are holding in that I don't want to say the ability, but they're holding in their emotion where they really could feel better, but they're waiting for something to happen so that gives them permission to say, you know what, now I made that $1 million.
Right.
Now I'm going to be happy. This goes back to what you said in the beginning.
Yeah.
I got the butt lift. Now I'm going to get all the attention. And the question is, what attention are you going to now get?
Right. And you know, here's the thing, you know, we have to think about it too, is like where I'm not trying to bash anyone who's had it done because it's like that's your journey. And if somehow, some way it does make you feel better, it's going to be short-lived, you know, because it's like we do become insatiable.
Well, a friend of mine, she just went through her journey and taking her implants out because they were making her sick, and that's becoming a huge thing. So it's not a conversation about, hey, you're bad for wanting to have all these things done. It's simply an awareness to say, for you, if this is where you are, and you did these things, and that happiness still ain't there, that's to take a hard look at what we're saying.
Right.
You know, because oftentimes, and I've worked with a lot of these people now. And again, I'm not even against doing anything to your body. Do whatever you want to do.
Right.
But don't come to me afterwards broken down. Talk about, I don't know why I ain't happy. It's like, you know, well, you know.
Do you really want to know?
Well, do you really, you want the truth or you want something to hold you over?
Right.
You know, and that's the hard truth that we have to go down and understand. What am I getting programmed to do?
Yeah.
Who's doing the programming?
It's really hard. It's really difficult with social media. And even with my daughter, like we've talked about plastic surgery. You know, like, oh, would you ever get it? Like, can I get it when I'm older? And it was like, ooh, we gotta be okay with this. We have to be okay with this. And that's what, like, what's going on now is health, right? Oh, you know, you gotta do this and do that in order to be quote unquote healthy. But these are medicines. Nobody says, okay, in order to change your pre-diabetic disposition, you need this, you need food, you need some sunshine, you need some supplements or anything. Like, it's like we don't have that conversation often. Why? We don't talk about the self-love and the self-care. I think it's just become this thing where it's like, oh, let's take a bubble bath and feel good.
Yeah.
And that's going to, no. Self-love and self-care can be getting therapy.
No, that is, I mean, obviously there's components that go
Right,
into the
of course.
self-love category, but those are the biggest components that get you back down to understanding the subconscious and understand why you even want what you want.
Yeah.
So then you won't have to go waste the money
Thank you.
on
Yeah.
something that you really didn't even want that.
Yeah.
You just wanted the outcome. So what's the least path of resistance to actually getting that versus, you know, going down this whole road of changing your body or whatever, and now you got further health complications years later because of it.
Yeah. That
You
was
know?
definitely one of the fears that I had, especially like, I don't know. I don't know if it's just I'm a worrywart or what, but I thought, oh my gosh, what if the anesthesia like kills me?
Well, anesthesia, we you know, me and my dad, we brain train after we get out of any type of anesthesia because it really compromises your nervous system. You know, your body is not like, yo, this is just anesthesia. So, you know, it goes back down to, again, what we're talking about is having a space to be able to observe your consciousness,
Yeah.
you know, to make better decisions,
Yeah. To be present.
to be present. In the beginning, we were overwhelmed.
Yeah.
And I was doing pretty good in my overwhelm,
You were.
but I knew I wasn't doing what I could be
Right.
because I had a level of what I want to call of, in my mind, excellence.
Yeah.
And I was like, I can't even go out the house right now.
Yeah.
Like without, like, if you tell me to come do something, I got to project about how that's going to be.
Because you saw it. You saw like your parents. You saw like what it looked like.
Yeah.
But it didn't feel like it inside of you, you know, like you knew what success, how to be successful, how to be focused, how to be ambitious, and how to be outgoing or confident, right? All these things that on the outside, but when you don't feel that
But
inside,
I didn't know how to
right?
integrate the negative aspects. You know, how do you integrate the being talked about and certain things that you start to experience when you grow up? You know, abandonments or rejections and things. How do you process those things? It's easy to go through the easy stuff, and that's what's happening too with a lot of different people raising their kids, where they're trying to shield them from everything negative. So then their nervous system doesn't have a opportunity to push back against something and to regulate and to grow. So I just shielded you from everything, and now your nervous system, and now you're in this cancel culture because you're trying to cancel everything that comes against the nervous system that keeps you feeling a certain way. Like, no, you're threatening me because you just said something about me that I don't like, and now everybody got to come down upon you. You know, it's like that's not how the world works, man.
You know, it's very interesting because when we talk about kids, I remember one time I started to notice that my daughter had tics. Like,
I remember that.
she would, you know, turn the light switch on and off or walk in and out of a room a couple times. And I called you and I was like, I think my daughter has OCD. And that's when I first said, oh my gosh, how did I F her up? You know, like, what am I doing to her?
Right.
And I noticed that around the time when I broke down and I had to come to you after 3 months. So when I went home, even that affected her. She felt abandoned because I left.
Yeah.
You know, obviously now, you know, she's so thankful that I did that, but she still has that process in her where she feels abandoned, and she had to deal with loneliness, and she had to deal with all of these negative aspects because of what I went through.
Yeah.
And so they were pouring out into her. So that generational trauma was very close. It was, we were still living in it. I pushed all that onto her. So it started to show up in different ways. And she had OCD tendencies, and she was doing this stuff. And I thought, oh my gosh, how do I fix my kid? She's this amazing human being. She's smart. She's happy. She's so talented and, all these really cool things. But then you started to see the emotions and her traumas start to come out. And I got, oh God, okay, I screwed her up. What do I do? So fast forward to last year, and I had already gone through 4 years of therapy, of talk therapy. That was just another thing that I wanted to just experience and really dedicate myself to. I said, you will dedicate 1 year to this. You will not stray. You will do it, right? And because of that, it turned into 4 years until the 4th year. And I was like, I'm good. I'm ready. But in those 4 years, I learned so much of how I was affecting my daughter, and that helped me become a better parent. And then in turn, she recommended a child therapist for her. And she says, most kids, they won't be okay with it. Like they don't want to talk to a stranger. They barely want to talk to you sometimes. So how are they going to, and she says, first you need to approach it this way. Hey, do you, if you want to try this, we can do it for 1 month, once a week, right? So 4 sessions. We'll do it 1 month. And if you don't feel comfortable anymore being here, if you don't feel like, if you're done, you can be done. She's good. So she, after those 4 sessions, my daughter felt like this was something I wanted to do. So I actually don't even know how long. How long were you there? How long did you do therapy? Like 4 months? Yeah, like 4 or 5 months. So let me tell you. So this is a child who has been living in this world of healing and quote unquote trauma and, all these modalities. And the way that we talk is always about like connecting and talking about the things that are happening within our bodies and our emotions or in our words, in our environments, our relationships. And then she meets the therapist, and the therapist is like, I have never met a child like you before, And it's because, number one, I didn't shield her. Number two, I was very honest with who I was and why I was the way I was. And what that did is she built compassion towards me, but it did screw her up because she's still a kid.
Yeah.
And that's not something she needs to be responsible for. She does not need to be responsible for me.
I learned about my parents' things probably within the last 15 years. As an adult.
Way into adulthood.
So yeah, I'm kind of glad they didn't share all that stuff with me as a kid, because it was a lot. It can warp.
Yeah.
I don't say it's just about safety. And if you're hearing about a lot of stuff that happened to you, I was drugged down the and you're thinking you were drugged down the street. Why did they do that to you? And it's overstimulation. You don't want to hear about the bad things that happen to you, because vicarious trauma is a real thing too. Absolutely. You're telling this story to me. Now as an adult, my mom started sharing some stuff with me about, my dad's childhood, her childhood, and I'm just like, man, and that's why I say, man, like people's parents, like if you see how the parents' behaviors are, go into that childhood and you'll understand why they're acting the way that they're acting. Yeah. They ain't just mean to you or a dick to you just cause. There's some stuff that happened. They've seen some stuff, experienced some stuff that got them right to where they are. And that's a hard pill for a lot of people to swallow, and start to understand that your parents did the best you could with what they have. And when I posted that on Instagram recently, of course, there's going to be a segment of people like, no, they abused me. They did this and they did that. Like, there's no way they were doing the best they can with what they have. But then you go into their childhood and they were abused and they were molested and they were all these things. Like, no, they did the best they can with what they knew. Yeah. And if they knew a bunch of trauma stuff, then trauma begets trauma.
Absolutely.
So that's where that statement comes from. It doesn't mean that they did the best they can with what they knew in terms of consciously.
Right.
Unconsciously, they did the best they could with what they knew. And if they knew the trauma stuff, if they experienced a bunch of it, then they're going to pass that on to you.
Yeah.
You experienced that from
My parents.
Your parents, right?
Mm-hmm.
And you had to go through that whole process of understanding that.
Yeah.
Were they bad people?
No, not at all.
Exactly.
Not at all. They were actually opposite. They were amazing, and they were very loving, you know.
Mm-hmm.
And you know, so I did my best with trying to understand parenthood in a different light, a different understanding, and accepting certain things about myself that I was doing wrong. And that's another thing. A lot of parents don't go, okay, time to change up. This isn't right. And I am so thankful that our relationship is so strong that we were able to navigate through that. And she was able to, and of course, because I'm her mother and she looks
Right.
up to me, so she's going to follow. But I realized that that's an even heavier responsibility when you are carrying all of this trauma, because it's like, let me take that baggage from you, honey. That's not yours. That's mine.
Yeah.
And for her to see me go through my transition of who I am today, like, she's like, man, you are nothing like you were when she was young, you know?
Mm-hmm.
And same thing, when she was talking, to her therapist and what she was going through, and all of that's between them. But she shared a couple of things with me, and it was so inspiring, because I realized that even though I didn't give her safety in certain times throughout her childhood, or I overshared, or I asked her to caretake me.
That's a good word. Overshare.
Yes.
Right.
Yes. And that, I asked her to take care of me, that, I was accountable, and I knew. I was like, sorry, I apologize. Not only do you deserve respect, but you deserve the trust that your mother can take care of herself, and that your mother can now take care of you better because she's taking care of herself. And there's that separation then.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, now you can go ahead and be a teenager. You can be a kid.
Yeah.
Mom is going to take care of everything else.
And it's
right?
not even about just a teenager, because I remember those early days when like Valencia was very advanced, because you did share things, and then was times where I felt like, I don't know if she should know that. Like, I understand what you're trying to do, but I don't think she should be knowing these things. And then she becomes this little adult early on. Like, Valencia has been like a little adult very early on.
Absolutely.
I'm like, why are you so old? Like, not old like a grandma, but like, why are you so mature? Like, you're too mature right now. Like, at 10 years old, like, man, what are we going to do? And like what are you doing? Like, you're 10. Like, but when you start that oversharing, like with my mom and my dad, I'll never know they got money issues.
Right. Mm-hmm.
Like, that's not something that they felt like the need to try to put on me. I'm talking about even as an adult. And guess what? They don't know I have them either.
Right.
They don't know my stuff.
That's the...
Unless I'm coming to ask for help. Unless they're coming to ask for help, which they don't do. But no, they don't share these things that's going on in their life. And it's like, because what they got to do with me?
Right.
I don't need you to be my friend and sharing with. Now, as an adult again, there's a little bit more of that friendship there with my parents.
Of course.
But still, there's still a level of, my parents don't even know who I was dating. Then my mom said, I don't know if they were ever going to bring a woman home. Because, you just never, like, listen, if I ain't brought them to you, then that's a good sign. That's a good sign.
It is.
Because I'm like, I ain't,
Yeah.
if I ain't brought them to you, it's a reason.
Exactly.
So don't worry about it.
Right. Don't even, it's fine.
If I ain't said nothing about nothing, trust me, ain't nothing going on.
But I think that's what we find, like, we have to have a balance. And I think that has been the most difficult part about me being a single mother as well, is not having a partner to bounce these things off. And I think a lot of single parents in general, like, what role am I playing?
Yeah.
Like what am I?
Because there's multiple energies that you got to really balance, specifically whether it's a young lady or a young man.
Yeah. I mean,
there's rites of passages as a young man.
I'm so grateful she's not a boy, because then I would have been like, man, I mean,
You
and
think it'd been emasculated?
I think I would be emasculating. And we've talked about this when I was younger and we first met, how you were like, your masculine energy is so high.
Yeah,
like
you have big dick energy.
I did. And
I mean, honestly, again, with this whole conversation with gender and stuff, I don't even know how to like really talk about it without being offensive about it, because I just know what I know.
Right.
You know, but I know energy.
Yeah.
And there is a masculine and feminine energy.
Yeah.
And if you want a masculine man, and I'm not talking about a masculine man the way we've been conditioned to think about masculine men.
Please explain
this.
Because
masculine men are very nurturing,
yes,
and caring,
yes,
and loving, and supportive. That idea that like, I'm an alpha, like I just conquer everything, and just like I'm a Viking or something. Like, what are you talking about? It's a balance. To me, there's a female-male balance. There's a male-female balance. We both have these energies in our bodies. The question is, which one are you tapping into?
Right.
And if your dominant energy is like as a female and you're masculine, then you're gonna attract the more feminine man.
Yeah.
And if that's what you like, and if that's really your nature and you're okay with that, then be okay with that.
Yeah.
But if you know, because if you know that's not your energy, because you would need someone, that's what I used to tell you, your energy is up here, then you need somebody to come in to up here to suppress you.
Yeah.
Because women at times, and you want to be suppressed, even though y'all say but y'all want to be.
Absolutely.
I want to use the word dominated, but where's the whole good guy thug come in at? Oh, I need a thug. Like, yeah, y'all do. You want some Jeezy in your life, right? Like, right? You look at that. Oh, that's what it is.
Yeah, that energy.
The energy.
And you know, and that was hard because like when you're a single parent, you're like, what energy do I use? So I just took on all of it, right?
Yeah.
And I didn't know how to suppress and bring that down and find that balance even with myself. And I guess overall what we're talking about is balance in general.
Yeah.
Right? Like, how do you balance that, your emotions? How do you balance the relationship between parent and child, you know, male and female energy, or feminine and masculine energy, let's just say that, okay? Yeah. And for me, I still have a hard time balancing that masculine energy and finding out and realizing that, you know, I personally don't really prefer feminine energy. I want, like you were saying, I personally want to feel.
And as we're talking about this, Art is calling me. My dad, whose energy is like straight up, straight up machismo, but with the nurturing aspect.
Yeah.
So what are you saying?
But I was saying, like, for me, I do want to feel safe, and I feel like the way I feel that safety is with the masculine energy, you know? And when I have that, it allows me to be feminine. Now, that doesn't mean that I'm always that way, because I still find, you know, I have a hard time balancing that aggression or that will to want to take over, take control. And those are the things that I'm now dealing with. So, okay, great. I got self-love, self-care. I've got all of that. But now I'm working on something different. Yeah. I'm working on how do I be a good partner, you know, and how do I live the rest of my days? Because I just turned 42 yesterday.
Oh, yeah. And happy birthday.
Thank you. And I'm starting to love my birthday to the point where I look and I go, what did I learn last year? How far have I come since my last birthday? And I look at myself and I go, what do you need to work on for the next year? Because that was a really cool thing that I adapted from Sundance and ceremony is, what are you working on this year for yourself? There's no New Year's resolutions thing, no nothing. It's literally my intention. What is my intention for this year? What is my growth for this year? And that's who I've become now as the woman that I am today, is going, okay, these are the things that I need to face about myself. I see them within myself. So yes, I've learned all of these things, but if you can't look in the mirror and go, okay, this is who you are and what you need to work on still, then you're not going to be very beneficial for the people around you, especially if this is the industry that you're in. And I am in the beauty industry. I am in the people industry, the connection, that how do you make people feel, and how do you affect those around you? So I realized that I have a lot of responsibility. And she's, my daughter's going to become a woman in a year. Like she's going to be an adult, quote unquote. Doesn't mean you're an adult when you're 18.
Man, listen, these new adults.
Oh, Lord.
Look how much it took us to become adults.
Right.
And now this new generation of adults is was again, mentally, emotionally.
Yeah.
Like they have something that we didn't have, which is, they ain't playing around with doing stuff they don't want to do.
Right.
This Generation Z and down they.
Oh, I don't like it.
Go punch
Done.
a clock for 10 hours to make $50?
Yeah.
I ain't doing that. Even when they don't got money. I'm not gonna do that though.
Nope.
They not playing with that. So that's cool if you have that, but you still gotta go in there and mold that with some principles and some understanding of long suffering.
Yeah.
Because that's the hard part. That's being missed.
Absolutely.
Is that this instant gratification,
there's no pressure on them to grow.
That's the thing.
And
there won't be pressure if you jump from thing to thing and you don't learn. If you don't learn that, no, everything that you do, you got to pay a price.
Yeah.
You have to
there's sacrifice.
pay a price for everything.
And sometimes it's your time. It's you working for nothing. And, that's the thing. Like, as a business owner, like, even that journey.
Yeah.
I'm like, I still go through it.
Yo, what do you mean still? Like, shit. That we were going through, they're connected. Everything that you create is a connection of you, an extension of you. So we were going through a healing journey, and then we had these businesses, and our businesses didn't grow until we grew.
Thank you. That is so true.
They didn't.
So true.
I had to learn new skills. I need to have my ass handed to me numerous occasions.
Yeah.
From trusting people I shouldn't have trusted. Because they had some money and they were gonna get me somewhere faster, and I ain't really do due diligence on them, and now I'm in a lawsuit.
Yeah.
And now I got somebody taking over my whole company because I allowed them to come into my LLC. And now they want me to pay all their legal fees, and I lose because I'm a black guy. Me and two black guys, me and my dad, and we're up against a white surgeon. Mm-hmm. Did you think I was gonna win that? And I really think about that, talking about that loud. That I didn't. Nobody wins in that either, in terms of lawsuits and stuff. Only people who win in that is the actual lawyers
who's making money.
Now I had to learn that.
Yeah.
To the point now where me and my mom, we do our own. We support ourselves legally because she used to work at Detroit Edison in the legal department.
No.
And I had to fight off a lawyer recently about something. And by the time I sent them all over the documentation that I had, that turned totally different in our favor because documentation beats conversation. Oof. And I had to learn in business. No, don't just say that to me verbally. Send me an email because I need a trail.
Yep. Even the way that I speak to my clients, everything is over text, and they think I want to have I said you can have a consultation over text. I said, but everything has to be an email. I mean, a consultation over FaceTime, but everything else has to be an email, and it has to be text. Because let me tell you how many times I've had to screenshot something.
And it's something that somebody said.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And that saved my.
But no.
Yeah. And it's like this whole thing, like the whole pressure and the growing, and how do you prepare for that, and how do you like I said, she's different. She's like, I want to get a job, and I'm like, I know you do, and I know when you get a job, you're gonna do, you're gonna work hard and you're gonna do great. I said, but right now, your focus is she wants to be an actress, she wants to get into theater, she wants to do all these things that I personally. I pour into that. That's your passion. Mm-hmm. I pour.
Yeah.
I pour. But what you have to give me back is you got to work 110% 100%. I'm not going to do the 110% thing, but I'm going to say 100%. I have to see the effort. The more effort you make, the more I pour.
Yeah.
Right? Once I see you start being lazy and you let it go, you get nothing. Like we go back to you get to go to school every day. So I think for me, because I knew what that pressure felt like, I feel like maybe I can translate that in a certain way. Like, okay, I will feed one passion and you need to work on that passion for a year. And if you don't like it, then we let go.
Yeah.
And that happened with ballet, with piano, and then back to ballet, and then to theater. And then like, it was all of these things. And yes, I did give her the opportunity to experience all these different things. But I was like, you need to invest first. You need to invest that year. And I think we go, oh, they don't like that? Okay, let's go on, move on to the next thing. And that's where, because it's like everything's accessible, everything.
And I understand what Gary Vee says too, what he's talking about in terms of like, oh, you're young and you need to try a bunch of stuff. And I did try a bunch of stuff, but you're not going to be successful until you stick with something.
Yeah, absolutely. Because you got to know the ins
You
and
got to
outs
have
of
a
it.
foundation.
And this is another thing I taught her. I said, even though this is your passion and you absolutely love it, I can already right now, guarantee 50% of that, you're going to hate it. You're going to be like, I hate waking up this early. I hate that I ate one meal today. I hate how tired I am. I haven't slept. I can't do homework. I'm exhausted. Why am I doing this? And that's the thing. Like when you have your passion and you find your happiness, there's still so much more work that goes into it that you're not going to like.
And live your purpose. And I do stuff that's very purposeful with my business. It's like, oh, we're helping people and changing people's lives and all those things. You think that stopped it from being tough?
Right. Exactly.
That was probably just the saving grace of it, why it never stopped.
Yes, absolutely.
But I've had eviction notices on my door.
Yes.
I've gone through a lot of stuff with this business, man. I was really going through the whole process in my mind the other day. Like me and my dad, early on, we've tried to do a lot of things and we had some failures and some successes, but you're going to have way more failures than you ever do success.
Absolutely.
And if your nervous system is being shielded from failure and rejection and you don't know how to process that, then you'll take that as it don't work, let me move on.
Right.
And sometimes you need to learn when to switch gears, right?
Yeah.
But you switching gears and this ain't even the fourth quarter.
Can I ask you something? Do you have any, like your demographic, what is it mostly? Like your age demographic?
Right now it ranges. It's a range from about 24, 25 up to about 50.
That's huge. But those are people that are paying for their own and coming in and like, oh, that's dope. But do they bring their kids?
They're starting to now because I just posted a picture with a kid because I never really promoted that we train kids.
Okay.
But you've known that.
I know.
You've known that forever.
Right.
But I kind of got away because, my thing is don't bring your kid in if you're not willing to come in.
Oh my gosh. Okay, I 100% get that now. Yes. Because yes, we trained my nephew, but we didn't train his parents.
You ain't trained the surrounding.
Yeah.
He was just a byproduct of everybody else.
Right. But that makes me curious because my first thought was, I want to bring Valencia to get brain trained. That's why she came with me. Because at first she was like, I'm just going to, stay. I have some Halloween parties to go to and stuff. And I'm like, okay. And then all of a sudden I says, well, would you be interested in brain training? And she remembers, obviously, everything that, she's seen firsthand, but also she's experienced through me and how it has helped me. And she's like, yeah, actually I am. So it's like, one of those things where, yeah, I have worked on myself. Now let's bring her in. So is that something that you're kind of focusing on the parents first and then?
I've really been focusing on the adults.
Yeah.
Because I'm like this. Everybody who thinks about and they see Inception, it's the first mental health gym, great. And the first thing they think of is so-and-so needs this and so-and-so needs this and so-and-so needs this.
But they don't say it
I'm
about
like,
themselves.
you going down this track about everybody else who need this because something wrong with all of them, but you good.
Oh my God.
You're in the,
of course.
if one, are you the stimulus that's causing them to be where they are?
Are you? Oh, okay.
Are you the receiver of it? And it could be one or the other or both.
Right.
You're enmeshed into that anyway,
Yeah.
whether it's your kid or whatever. So you put your oxygen mask on first and come and start doing your work. And if they happen to come along the way, great. But if they don't come along the way, great.
Right.
Because that's not your responsibility.
No.
That's their responsibility.
Oh my gosh.
People be
Absolutely.
funny. They're like, Dave, I'm going to come over and check you out. Don't come check me out.
Just come.
Don't check me out. You're not checking me out. Don't come for me. Oh man, I need to get over there to your place. Don't tell me what you need to do with my place to think you're supporting Inception. Don't support Inception because it's not about you supporting Inception.
Oh wow.
It's about you coming in to support you. There's a value exchange.
Mm-hmm.
So you're not coming to Inception to just support Inception and there ain't no value.
Right.
Oh, so like if you really start to break down what we do and you've been around for all these years, you know this equipment is not cheap.
No.
You go out to Cali. See, I have it grouped in circuits now where you do 3 services in a 90-minute time frame and it's $99, Angelica.
What?
It's $99. So if a person says, you know what, I'm going to do, they do the Magnosphere, they do the brain training, you want to opt out, I don't want to float. Oh, what can I substitute it with? Nothing. Because 2 of those services combined is more, that you're not seeing the value in. You're devaluing it. Because if you go out to California, you go to Dave Asprey's place, the Bulletproof Executive, you're gonna spend up to $1,500 to $3,000 a month to use the same type of equipment.
What?
But you'll come in and you're $99 and you'll devalue it. Don't devalue this.
Yeah.
I was gonna say don't devalue my stuff, but it ain't my stuff
It's
you're
not.
devaluing. You devaluing yourself.
Absolutely.
Because everything else you go do and you spend money on. I mean, in 3 days I can spend $90 on DoorDash. Seriously. That shit is expensive.
It is.
So it's really it's a mindset shift that needs to happen. So when these people think about healing, think about you.
Yeah.
Because if some food came on the table, you wouldn't think, oh, so-and-so, I'm going to go take this to so-and-so first. No, you're going to be sitting up there eating it. This is amazing. And then you're going to tell it.
Yeah.
Why is it that when it comes to our health, we do the backwards ass experience where any of the experience I have, I saw that movie. It was amazing. You should go see it. You saw it? Yes. It was amazing. Hey, I learned about this place called Inception.
Yeah.
You should go. Have you gone? No.
Then why should I
But
go?
you should go.
Right. Like what?
But you, because it's you. You the messed up one.
Right. It's
you.
Not me.
I'm not
good.
the messed up one. I'm good. And so this that mindset too there. That mindset, you're the messed up one.
Yeah.
No, if you really start to learn it, and again, we've seen it. No, we all messed up.
We are all messed up.
All messed up.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think, and that's what's hard about social media too, is like, that's where you get like these trolls who are like, judgy, point fingers. And I'm like, we all kind of did all of this at one point in our lives, and it could be anything. We have all been negative. We've all been prejudiced. We've all
lied.
Yes,
we've all
we lied.
cheated.
Exactly.
We've all manipulated.
Absolutely.
We've all,
We hide, we pretend, we put on masks, we do everything. Like, we've all done it. We're all the same in how we react to pain, how we react to joy. Well, not necessarily joy, but definitely how we react to pain.
Yeah. And let me put it on this side too, because I talk about from the women's aspect because I'm a man and that's what's being promoted to me. And so I'm seeing a lot of the cosmetic stuff, because that's what's being promoted to me as a man. Now and unless you change your feed up, which I've done recently, where I stopped.
I don't know how you do that.
Meaning I don't follow the beauty models and the Instagram models and stuff because once you start to interact with those pages, they send you more of that.
Okay.
And for me, it's like, I'm not going to a buffet where I can't eat.
You're like, eh.
Seriously.
Yeah.
I was never
love
into
that.
like strip clubs or Playboys. It's like, well, this not real.
And I'm not spending my
Right.
money.
It's not real. So, but if you go look, the men, we deal with it in a totally different way than women do. But it's on equal sides.
Yeah.
Men suffer from body dysmorphia. I ain't big enough. Dudes be this, how much you bench? Like, I remember that back in the day. Like, how much you bench? Like, what, am I in a weightlifting competition? Just out of the blue. How much you bench? How tall are you? How much you weigh? And it's like,
What?
am I on display to be sold?
Oh
You
my
know what I'm saying? Like
gosh,
that, but
that's so weird.
These are the questions that other men used to ask each other growing up, because that's your value. Those numbers were about, well, how strong are you?
Mm-hmm.
What can you fight? And all these people learning MMA and taking gun classes, and ain't nobody shot nobody, ain't nobody fought nobody.
Exactly.
Who you shot? You got the shotgun, you got the laser scope, you know jujitsu, you could put them in chokeholds, and
That's a zombie apocalypse.
and it's like, who you fought? You ain't fought nobody. But we preparing for something that ain't even happened, because again, that represents a machismo.
Yeah.
You know, and I agree again. Now for MMA, I think there's a lot to be learned with mixed martial arts and self discipline, like the Gracies and people like that. I think you were into MMA with like jiu-jitsu. I think that. Oh yeah, even Valencia was in jiu-jitsu. Yeah. So I think what you learn from those things are just it's like, you know what it is? It's like a controlled environment of training the nervous system.
Ooh, yeah.
Because you get to experience the fight, flight, freeze in a very safe type of environment. Because you're going to activate and get this dude off me. Like, like that. I think those things for men are really good. I think going and learn those type of skills just so you can fight somebody is a totally different thing. But
I remember recently my daughter was saying like she was like around some of the guys. I gotta take these earrings off. These are squishing my ear. She said that one of the boys had just came at her to see what she could do, and she flipped him around and put him in a hold, and he was like, "Whoa!" And he's 6 foot something, and you got her, and she can defend herself, and it's quick.
Yeah.
It's there. It's inside. And I remember when her father first talked about it, I was like, yeah, that would be really cool. Like, I didn't think that it would affect and be as helpful as it is, because I thought, well, what if she's not really interested in this? Like, she's fighting a bunch of boys. Like, what if she doesn't like, you know what I mean? Like, all of that. And so that was where my brain was at, is I was trying to protect her. Like, well, what if she doesn't like it? And that's,
Yeah.
Luckily, I had him to go, okay, this is going to be good for her. She has to dedicate a year. And so for some of the things, him and I were on the same page in that way, and it did help. But like, as I was saying, like it did benefit her. But after that year, she was like, okay, I want to do ballet, but it stayed.
I think that's cool as a young age, though.
Absolutely.
When you're in that environment, you can start to pick up those skills and learn.
Oh, yeah.
And, again, as you start doing, you get in space. Like, I got into salsa, and that had changed my life, and that's something I was going to tell you, too.
Tell me.
Yeah,
No, I knew you were doing it, but I want to know, like, how has it helped you?
So when we talk about male, female, or lead, follow, that's been very important. Like, to be able to go and, like, I have to, like, dancing with a woman, is it
intimidating?
No, not.
Oh, okay.
No. It is in the beginning.
Okay.
Because you don't know, you got to take this person and you got to give her the dance of her life. But also, you have to take in the fact that she might not be able to dance to your skill level. So there's a constant dance that's happening within the two of you.
Yeah.
And the leader, as
Quote,
you call
unquote.
it, quote unquote, because the leader is not really a leader. Because guess who? If you really start to get into dance, who am I being led by?
Me.
I'm being led by the
woman.
music.
Oh, I'm like the woman. Because here's when I first started to learn salsa is they said anytime I messed up, I'd go, oh my gosh, I'm sorry. And he'd be like, you're always right.
It's always the man's fault.
It's his fault.
Yes.
It's not yours. You're always right. So
because the signal is not clear enough. So if I try to turn you and you didn't get that signal, you have to be able to interpret the message that I'm sending to you to be able to move.
Right.
So if I'm giving you a false, turn, or I'm like not very confident where I'm trying to move you. Now, in the beginning, I was very, I'm passive. I'm not really sure, like, oh, do I want to move you here? Because one, I don't have myself figured out. So I practice a lot by myself. Get that understanding. Now you bring another person in. Now, even if you aren't that skilled, I can move you around. I can manipulate you around. But it feels better when you actually have yourself figured out, and then we come together, and that's an amazing dance.
I love this.
So that's where I get that idea. I think all men and women should get into some type of lead follow dance. Even if you are not heterosexual, because they have that in that too. It's still a lead follow. So the question is, who's going to do the leading following? Right. But we've been always confused about, well, I don't need him to lead me, or I don't need her to, it's just, it's about who's interpreting, who's sending a message and who's interpreting that message. I'm the sender of the message and you're interpreting the message.
Right.
So it's not about lead follow, it's send,
communication.
receive. Yeah, it's communication. And it's knowing how to, when in the beginning too, I dance with someone who was way better than me. And she helped me, Lucia. And when I danced with her, I was way better than what I thought I was.
What?
Until I went and danced with somebody else. And I was like, yo, I suck.
Oh, no.
Because she made it for all my inefficiencies.
Oh.
Because she was so good and she was so trained. So she made it for my inefficiencies because of that.
I'm seeing a lot of analogies here.
Yeah. So, but then when I got to the place where I can dance with her and she's like, hey, come and dance with David, feel his lead. I feel like, yo, I'm accomplished at that point. Because the master, the one who, like she's saying, this lead is good. This is a good lead. This was a good dance. This was a good feeling.
That's amazing.
We're going down a whole rabbit hole of this whole journey and this conversation, just really getting to the same place is that going through the journey. That's one thing that we have not stopped doing. And then all these other things we're talking about, we just add it and we working to add these things to ourselves to add more value along the journey. But along the way, you have to take that cup we talked about. Yeah. If you want to continue going, you can't take everything with you. So you have to release and pour out to begin to take in more, to process and integrate.
It's so funny. I was watching Avatar the other day, one of my favorite movies of all time with the blue people. And I remember she said, I think it was the mother who was like the spiritual person of the tribe or whatever they're called. And she was saying, let's see if we can, what did she say? I can't remember how to say this. See, I told you I'm really bad at telling jokes or actually repeating stuff, but it was something about in the essence of can we fill a cup that's already full? And can we cure your insanity, and that's what you just made me think about just now is like pouring out to let back in. And I didn't even think about that because you remember how I told you that one saying has stuck with me. Yeah. Now I'm going to think about it even differently and go, let me pour this out so I can get some more. Like what else? What else do I need to reset my life and do? And right now I'm in a transitioning period as well because I recently just moved again. I was like, it's time to go. It's time to get up, move, and this doesn't necessarily mean that for everyone. Like, no. But for me personally, it was another transition. Let me see if I have what it takes to open up another market in another city, right? That's just me, my growing pains. So right now I'm going through growing pains. I am stretching muscles I've never stretched before, or at least stretching them further. And I am finding really amazing things about myself that I wouldn't have known had I been just stuck in that one place.
Yeah.
Where I have been comfortable now. I've been comfortable for 5 years, growing, but comfortably. And here I am. I have another opportunity. Do I take this opportunity or do I stay? So I said, when people are like, I can't believe you did that. I can't believe you did. And I'm like, we can all do it. You just have to make up your mind to do it.
Well, you can't. So we're going to end with this.
Tell me.
It's an important message. Is that when Jesus, he was walking, it was a rich man who wanted to follow Jesus,
Mm-hmm.
and he said, "All right, you want to follow me? Give up all your possessions."
Mm.
The rich man didn't do it
Mm.
because he wanted to take in this newness that this person, this master of the universe, let's call it like that. Not He-Man, but he wanted to take in this wisdom from this person who's healing people being raised up from the dead, all this stuff. But he couldn't leave all that prized possessions. That was more important to him, which was fine for Jesus. But he's saying, for what I'm trying to show you, you can't come with that. You gotta let that go to be able to take in this newness.
Yeah.
And there's another verse that says you can't pour new wine into old wineskins. It's all about adding the space, pouring out that cup, and then you can allow newness to come in. But that's a whole process.
Yeah.
You experience, you process, and you integrate. Till next time, guys.
Thank you.
You've been listening to the Inner Wealth Podcast on EYL.
Get out the matrix and live.
Theme song produced by Be Ready for West Coast Creations. I am Razcast, reminding you to take action, be proactive, be congruent. Get out of the matrix, get your mind right. We've automated mental health at inception. Join the movement. Inner Wealth Podcast. Inner Wealth Podcast. Inner Wealth Podcast.
Get out the matrix and live.